Welcome everybody to a Wednesday edition of Tuesday Night Video Q&A. The day before the season starts edition. We've got questions already getting loaded into the chat. It's going to be a big night for questions, which is going to be awesome. We're going to get right to your questions and comments after I do a very, very brief drive-by hit on the news items of the day. There's not that much, no major bombshells happening, but there's a couple things I just wanted to touch on. But most of this show is going to be driven by your questions, your sit-start conundrums that will allow me to expand on my thoughts of various different players. We got a big potpourri of names in the questions I see. Ridley looks like Calvin Ridley may be the leader in the clubhouse for the name that I see the most. So we'll get all to that very shortly. First, let me hit on some quick news items, and most of them are related just around injury report updates. Matt Stafford has been totally cleared. He is not on the injury report for Week 1. So all that concern about his back, I'm sure, just like last season, he's had back issues for multiple years. I'm sure if he takes the wrong hit at the wrong angle, he could have some kind of issue. But baseline, walking into Week 1, it's not like he's got this severe pain that he can't. He's just going to have to fight through, and it's going to be touch and go. All the back concern for Stafford is just off the table for right now. He's walking into this game totally fine. They were just over managing it, as they should, in the preseason. He didn't need to play in the preseason, so he didn't need to practice hard to win his job or prove to his teammates that he's any good. So they just bought him more time to not take any risk or any chance of something happening with his back. So he's totally fine. The lineman, is it Aldrich Jackson, that had a blood clot issue that they were worried he was going to miss the beginning of the season? He's clear and he's going to play. So the Rams go from the last month being kind of like, oh my goodness, what happens if Stafford can't go? And it's not good if that offensive lineman can't play, to now all those are off the table. The Rams are walking into the season totally fine. So which makes them, to me, arguably, there's other teams in the debate as well, but arguably the Rams are the best all-around team with a healthy Stafford that there is in the NFL. There's maybe 3 to 5 other teams I could say that about, but the Rams are definitely one of them. Now I would say clear favorites in the NFC West if Stafford can stay healthy, and now that Jackson's back on the O-line, it just locks that all in. So, and this is good news for Puka. Whatever you think of Devontae, which I think he's going to get lost behind a lot of the action going to Puka, and good news for Kyren Williams. So Stafford looks totally fine. Marvin Mims is also practicing in full no injury designation. He had a little tweak of something a couple of days ago. It was something we were watching, but he's clear, so he's going to be an option, a clean option for folks for Week 1. Darren Waller did not practice today. I think he has a hamstring issue. He's in question of being able to go Week 1. Not that that's a huge deal. I don't know that a lot of people were going to push Darren Waller into their starting lineup. But if Waller is down and out, that means only good things for the wide receiver trio, that I'm interested in all of them to some degree for fantasy. I'm interested in a Tyreek comeback season. I'm interested in Waddle just being the other guy away from Tyreek, but that if Tyreek gets hurt for any reason, and I don't mean that Tyreek's like on the precipice and he's touch and go, like Tyreek's ready to go, but if he were to get hurt, then Waddle would assume that kind of senior position for targets and everything from Tua. But I'm also interested in Malik Washington, that I would not be surprised if Tyreek Hill plays this entire season healthy, doesn't get traded, and is in, plays for Miami all 17 weeks, and Miami's in the race, so they're playing for things every week right down to the final game. And if Tyreek is clear and clean for 17 weeks, I would not be shocked if Malik Washington didn't have more catches per game and then potentially more yards per game than what Jalen Waddle will put up. If Tyreek goes away, then Jalen Waddle kind of becomes a number one in his place. Malik Washington's not going to play all the snaps. He's going to play probably about 60 or so % of the snaps, be that true slot wide receiver where he's getting a lot of bubble screens and short, quick hitters, but he looks fantastic this preseason, and I already thought he was one of the best. I think we had him in the top 5 graded wide receivers for the 2024 draft, another wide receiver ahead of Marvin Harrison. So, no Waller. If Waller's in the game, he's probably going to get targets. Waller not in the game, and I think it's going to be an issue for Waller a lot this season, that he didn't barely practice in the preseason. He didn't even play last year. He's going to try to walk onto the field, and he's already always hurt when he was playing. Now he's already hurt before he's going to try to play week 1. I think Waller came back. I don't think Waller's serious about playing football. I think Waller's serious about getting a paycheck, and he's been that way for a couple of years. And that's why he's always hurt and not playing. He's smart. He's taking money and not taking hits. He's so not into football that he just up and quit last year. But then he's back. He's back not for the love of the game. He's back for money. And what he's done for the last couple of years is get good money and not play much. So he's already back at it, potentially missing week 1. Whatever targets were going to go to him, there's not another tight end. The tight ends after him on Miami are dreadful. So whatever targets would maybe go to Waller being a receiving presence on the field, whether it's 3 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, will get shoved down and spread around to the wide receivers mostly or all, and that's good news for even a Malik Washington as kind of an outsider, long shot wide receiver 3 this week and this season. And then if Tyreek were to go down, then Malik Washington would have to step up, and then there'd be some real conversations about Malik Washington. And speaking of Miami things, and Devon Achane is limited. They're probably just playing it safe, and he's probably going to be fine. But it's something to keep an eye on, because Achane's one tweak of his issue away from Ollie Gordon being the starting week 1 running back. And if Achane becomes a surprise declared out for Sunday, they're gonna start Ollie Gordon. And I don't know that means that we all have to rush to then go start Ollie Gordon for the week. But what I'm excited about for Ollie Gordon is that that's an opportunity to show what he can do, where, if Achane was totally healthy and Wright was totally healthy and Alexander Mattson never got hurt in the preseason, Ollie Gordon may be coming into this season as a number 4 running back. They didn't look like they were all too concerned about pushing Ollie Gordon, or that they had something special with Ollie Gordon. He got in and played in the preseason and kind of forced their hand to get noticed, and then Jalen Wright got hurt, and then Gordon got elevated up and played some more key snaps. He played with the first team in preseason week 3 because Achane was out and Wright was definitely out. So Gordon's getting a chance to work with the first team. Other talented running backs like DJ Giddens isn't getting that chance. Bachel Tootin isn't getting that chance. Caleb Johnson is not. I don't even know if he's allowed near the first team. So Ollie Gordon getting first team opportunity gives him a chance to show that he belongs, and maybe he's going to. I don't know that this is going to be an Ollie Gordon show and this is the year of Ollie Gordon, but it could just cut into Devon Achane like crazy. So we're on the brink of that. I don't think it's going to happen week 1, but Achane's not totally clear, and his injury is not something that couldn't, within the first couple plays of week 1, pop up, and then all of a sudden we got a real story on our hands. NFC or AFC East, other news. For any bettors out there, or those tied to Baltimore Ravens things, Baltimore Ravens things, and or the Buffalo Bills defensive things. The Bills' 2 starting corners now, Benford and who's the other guy? Tre'Davious White, who's terrible anyway. They're both questionable. I don't know that Tre'Davious White is going to be able to start, and I don't know that that's that bad for Buffalo, but they don't really have much behind them. So if I'm betting the Baltimore-Buffalo game today, I'm assuming that Buffalo's too banged up in the defensive secondary, and I'm going to pick or bet on the Ravens to win and cover that game. But if Tre'Davious White is the only one out, it's not that big of a deal. It's a deal. It's a big deal in that Buffalo's this, top 10 NFL team with a good defense and a great corner in Benford on one side, and then I don't even know what they're going to do on the other side. Tre'Davious White stinks and is hurt. They wanted it to be their first-round draft pick, Maxwell Hairston, but he's hurt and he's out. So there's a real problem on one side of the field for Buffalo. But if Benford goes out, and Benford's kind of become one of the top 10, top 5 cover corners, if Benford is out, I will bet on the Ravens. If I sense that Benford's going to be out, it's Baltimore Ravens season in week 1. Passing game, it changes Zay Flowers' projections, also Rashad Bateman's projections. It's only going to boost Lamar Jackson some more. It's going to probably draw Buffalo into being in a shootout, so it could be great for Josh Allen, and then whatever you think is going to go with Josh Allen in the shootout. So the Buffalo situation's getting a little interesting as a top-tier team that could walk into week 1 missing both of their starting corners while playing another top 10 team in the Baltimore Ravens. Last note that I have, Josh Downs, for those that have Josh Downs, and I think there's a pretty good amount of people that do have him. He's been pretty gettable later of a redraft. The number 1, I think, wide receiver for the Colts, easily. Easier throw for Daniel Jones. He is fully cleared and practicing 100%, and he is going to play. There was some question a week or two ago where they shut him down, was taking it easy on him to make sure he'd be ready for week 1, but he looks like he is fully cleared and ready to go. So if you got Josh Downs, that's a legit option for this week. All right, those are the notes that I had. Let's get down to the questions and comments in the chat. We're starting it off with Chris Frazier is leading us off. Hey RC, happy Fantasy Football Eve. Good luck to you this season and to all the FFMers. I echo that sentiment, and I still can't believe the season starting tomorrow. I don't know why. I'm not excited yet. Like, I'm ready. My wife asked me yesterday, like, are you excited about the season getting ready to start? And I was thinking, I've got so many things I'm double checking, trying to get back into the flow of doing the projections, going through the injury reports, but also there's a lot of final redrafts going on that I'm helping people out with, and there's just a lot of admin stuff going on in a big flurry that I can't kind of comprehend that it's all going to begin tomorrow. But when she asked if I was excited for the season to start, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for this season to start from the perspective of, we've all been studying and working on this and doing mock drafts and looking at the NFL draft and watching preseason game. I mean, for me personally, it's been 8 months, 7+ months since the last fantasy season ended. And it's 7 months of research and looking at the free agency and how do the draft picks figure in and what do they all look like in the preseason and who's got injuries, who doesn't, what's going on with Matt Stafford's back, all these different things. There's all this research, all these projections, and I'm ready I want to see how it's all going to play out. It's all great to have all these mock drafts and computer simulated seasons and all, but I want to see it starting to play out. I want to see, is this the year of Jamison Williams? Is Cam Ward and Ridley really going to be that good? Is Nick Chubb going to be a breakout success as the shock Cincinnati starter? There's so many things. I'm just so ready to see it. But I can't. It's so weird that it's actually here. But I am definitely ready to see how all this is going to play out. And then when one little thing goes wrong, when the first big injury hits a quarterback of a team and sends that team reeling, and it's like it just changes the whole board of how the projections are going to go, what it's like for the defenses facing them, what it's going to be like for the receivers when they've lost their ace quarterback, and we don't know who it's going to be, or what's the first running back that's going to tear his ACL this season and spawn and launch the backup to becoming a star. So I am ready for it to. I'm ready to see the cards being dealt. I've read enough books on poker per se. I've played enough online mock poker tournaments. Like, I'm ready to sit down at the table and play, and let's see this all play out. So I am ready for it, and I have a funny feeling I wouldn't bet on. I would bet on it a little bit to cover, but I just got the funniest feeling that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win tomorrow night. That doesn't mean that the Eagles won't win then every game the rest of the season and win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's an Eagles thing. I just have a funny feeling that Dallas is going to win that game tomorrow night. And I kind of hope they do, from all this Micah Parsons nonsense that's going on, that's launched Green Bay into being the greatest team in the league. I think I saw something where they might even be the NFC favorites now in the betting odds. I'd have to confirm that, but I thought I saw a headline come across that they moved ahead of the Eagles. Like, I can't believe that. And then everybody's going to tank Dallas for losing Parsons when they may have upgraded their defense by getting Kenny Clark and getting rid of a liability in Micah Parsons. I think he's a liability. So that's when I'm watching tomorrow. I'm going to be watching, kind of rooting inside for Dallas, which I usually don't do. And I'm not anti-Philadelphia. I want to see Jerry Jones, who made the right move and a bold move to dump Micah Parsons. I want to see that work out for him, even if it's just for this 1 week. Okay, Chris Fraser is going to lead us off with the questions. What's your confidence in Calvin Ridley week 1 with the Denver matchup? It's not great. I don't know that I'm going to go full scale sit him because of the matchup. What's his face? Who's the corner for Denver? The really good corner does not really travel. He usually sticks to his side. So Riley Moss on the other side is good. Why can't I think of Riley Moss? Patrick Surtain. As I say, I can't think of Patrick Surtain, but I know Riley Moss. So I don't think Surtain's going to travel with him. And it'll go better for him when he's up against Moss. But also, if Denver gets out to like a 14-21-0 lead, and then forces Tennessee to have to throw the ball a bunch, a lot of even if they try to double Calvin Ridley, I think Ward's going to throw a lot to Ridley, just from what I've seen in the preseason. And when you consider who his other options are, I mean, he's got a terrible draw of other receivers. He's got broken down Tyler Lockett, and he's got now Io Manor, who I think is the most marginal average wide receiver in the rookie wide receiver class. He's now starting over Van Jefferson. I think Van Jefferson's better than Io Manor, so I can't believe Io Manor's starting. So that's not good for Ward. He has two. If you took the 2 starting wide receivers from every team and then threw in a slot wide receiver, so if you took the top 3 wide receivers from every team, so 96 wide receivers, current day Tyler Lockett and Io Manor would probably both be in the bottom 10 of talent of the 96 wide receivers who are going to quote unquote start for their teams this week. That's what he's got. That's what Cam Ward has to throw to. But then he's got a really good Calvin Ridley, who he threw to all the time when they played together in the preseason. So Cam Ward's no fool. So just by circumstance, Calvin Ridley's going to get a ton of targets. I don't think Surtain's going to travel with him. And then even if they do a little travel, or if they do a little double covering, if the game starts to get out of hand, then Denver will loosen up on the defense per se, and there'll be some Cam Ward prevent defense garbage time potentially in the fourth quarter, and Calvin Ridley can be okay. So I can make a case for starting Calvin Ridley, but do I have a ton of confidence? Not really, because I'm worried that the Denver defense may just totally wipe out a rookie quarterback in his first start. But whatever numbers he has is probably going to go to Ridley. So I don't think Ridley's going to go off. This is not going to be a week where it's like, oh, Ridley's got 9 catches and 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I would highly doubt that. He might get 9 catches, but I don't think he's going to have 100-plus yards or 2 touchdowns. But we'll see what he can do in garbage time. I'd have to really evaluate. If I was going to sit him because of matchup, I'd have to have a pretty damn strong wide receiver to put in his place. Chris Fraser, next question is 10 teams, 6-point passing. So we got quarterback friendly, half PPR. Need a flex of Njoku, Ford, who was listed as the first team running back for Cleveland, whatever that's worth. Harvey, the second team running back for Denver. Mims and Rodriguez Jr., the third team running back for Washington. I like, if I felt if you were a massive underdog, if you were looking, and by looking at your team, you're not a massive underdog. If I needed points, I would probably look to Marvin Mims to try to get me those points. When I look at the running backs, I'm like, I don't know. Ford should get touches. Ford's probably the safest running back of that trio in touches. Especially, he'll probably get 5 or 6 catches. But if I'm desperate, I'm looking at Marvin Mims. If I'm not as desperate, if I just need a stable return, if I want the lowest risk of getting a 0 or a 3, I'm staying away from Rodriguez. I'd even stay away from Mims in that case. Although I don't think it's very low probability Mims is going to get shut out of stuff, but you could see if Denver gets up big, fast, and doesn't use Mims early to do it, that if Denver doesn't have to waste their good Mims plays against Tennessee because they're blowing them out, I mean, and then they pull back the throttle late. I could see Mims not having the greatest game. I could see Rodriguez only getting 5 or 6 touches. I could see RJ Harvey just getting some pass catches. I could see Ford splitting a workload with Sampson, but the one guy that's going to play and have to produce in a higher probability shootout on both ends is David Njoku, who's been fantastic with Joe Flacco back 2 years ago. And they look like they still had that magic in just a brief appearance together, I think the week 3 preseason game. So Njoku is the smart money. Mims, if you think you're going to need some razzle-dazzle boost of points. And I'm going through these guys in a little bit of detail to answer these questions so that what I have to say about these players might trigger something for somebody else who owns RJ Harvey or who owns Mims or is thinking about a Mims start. So Chris Fraser just happens to be opening up the gates with the first question, so we'll take longer to answer the questions, but I'm doing it to give some theory on the various players because I'm sure they're either going to come up through the rest of the chat or they'll be unspoken, but it might trigger something. It might trigger a question or a thought about a sit start someone has. So Chris Fraser's next question, in a 4-point half PPR, needing 2 flex, Pacheco, Debo, Downs, Mims, Rodriguez. That's a good group to have to pick 2 flex from for sure. I would take Rodriguez right out of that mix because everybody else is so much stronger involved in their offense. The fact that it's half PPR would probably lead me to definitely Pacheco as the number 1 running back for Kansas City. Then I would likely go with Deebo Samuel as my number 2 in half PPR, just because I think Deebo's going to be taking 2-3 carries. I could do Josh Downs. I could do Marvin Mims, but I think Deebo Samuel's more likely to get secure touches in various ways playing with the best quarterback of anybody that we're talking about between Downs and Mims and Deebo. So definitely Pacheco. I could make a case for Deebo, Downs, or Mims. I would go with Deebo in that situation, but I wouldn't get mad at anybody if they went Downs or they went Mims. If you're facing Bo Nix, there might be some case to go with Mims just to potentially block Nix in a situation. Or if you're facing Jaden Daniels, then might make even more sense to go with Deebo. If you have Jaden Daniels, then it makes some sense. You might want to stack him with Deebo. Just looking up the times of the games. So Denver plays at the 4 o'clock game. Washington's at 1 o'clock. Okay. Then Chris Fraser's last question in that block 64 point, half PPR, need a flex. Pollard, Warren, Downs, Mims, Debo. So half PPR, I always lean towards the running backs when we get to half PPR, and then especially non-PPR. I think I love Tony Pollard for this season, but starting out against Denver is going to be a little shaky. But he's going to get probably 15 plus touches for sure. Warren's probably going to get 15 plus touches. It's hard to go against two clear number one running backs for their team. And I can't stress it enough that Jaylen Warren is the clear number one for Pittsburgh. They've invested in him with that new contract. It's like I wrote in the RC's notes, it's a very similar-ish, has some parallels to what Carolina did with Chuba Hubbard last year, when everybody thought Jonathan Brooks was going to be the next awesome thing because he was drafted so high and he was a magical unicorn rookie. Carolina figured out fast he wasn't, and that's when they preemptively invested in Chuba Hubbard. That's when I knew, man, everybody better, if anybody owns Jordan or Jonathan Brooks stocks, they better dump it now. And that was your last best chance to dump Jonathan Brooks, because that was the tell that, I mean, there was already signs leading up to that, but that was the full-scale tell that they're all in on Chuba Hubbard and they are all out on Jonathan Brooks. Pittsburgh basically told us the same thing with what they just invested in Jaylen Warren, and they told us all that they think about Caleb Johnson. So Pollard, Warren, two lead running backs that aren't going to get bumped by people underneath of them in week one. It's hard to not go with those two guys. If you're down at 4 o'clock, like if you're down bad at 4 o'clock, just again looking at the times of games, if you do go with Pollard and you're like, wow, I am way behind, and you think then maybe Marvin Mims having a circus day of running the ball and bombs and taking a tunnel screen for a touchdown, maybe even doing something in a return game. If you're down, maybe you'll think Marvin Mims over Pollard against Denver, but just straight up Pollard Warren would be the way that I would go out of the gates. Sam Shen, good evening, RC. Good evening to you, Mr. Sam. Full PPR, 6-point touchdown. We got lots of points going on in that system. Week 1 forecast is 52-48, so you're probably really 60-40. And I say that like, you know how everybody, when you mock drafted, if you kind of followed along our plan, you got a C- to a D. I don't think they give Fs anymore. So D is about as bad as it gets. So everybody was sending me notes that they were so excited when they got a D. But that not only in mock drafts, but especially when you've drafted your team and then the system spits out the grades and who they think the favorites are, which is always a laugh, because everybody that's been here with us for a long time, like Sam and Albert Driver and Jansen, I'm just looking down the list of names, and the High Priestess Julie McCoy is out there, Marsh Lamb, everybody. You know, you're drafting and you're getting a D or D minus, projected 12th out of 12 and all of that in the preseason. So that's what they think of your current team. So of course, when you go to put your lineup in, they're not going to like your lineup either. So when I see somebody who their system projects as 52-48 in Sam's instance, I instantly add 10, minus 10 to both sides, or plus 10 to our side, minus 10 to the opponent. So I'd say you're more in the 60-40 range. So should I flex Ridley, shadowed by Surtain? I don't know if he's going to be shadow. I don't know if he'd shadow Surtain. or Jaylen Warren. I would probably go with Jaylen Warren because you're a likely favorite, and again, and I can't emphasize this enough, Jaylen Warren is going to be the heavy lead running back for Pittsburgh. That's the way that I'm playing it. I don't know that anybody has a case that says that I'm wrong about that. It was suspect a couple weeks ago when I said it. Now there's really no doubt that Jaylen Warren's going to be the real heavy lead back for Pittsburgh. And one of the great things that Jaylen Warren brings to the table is he's really good in the passing games. Think of Jaylen Warren as a junior version of Chase Brown. Really good with those screen passes, a crafty runner, a crafty, tough runner. Should have been starting over Najee Harris for the last 4 years, but working behind a bad offensive line with a good quarterback. In Chase Brown's case, it's a great quarterback. So some people still see Jaylen Warren in our old memory banks. Just we have him locked in as isn't that the split role guy that was the 1/3 to Najee Harris's 2/3 guy. Now he's starting. Like, is he even going to be starting for long? Is Caleb Johnson going to come and take that job away? You have to look at Jaylen Warren as junior Chase Brown. So, do I want junior Chase Brown against the Jets, or do I want Ridley against Denver's defense? Not only Surtain, I'm more worried about Denver's defense as worried as I am about Patrick Surtain. If Surtain were to shadow him, it'd be a real problem. But even if he doesn't shadow him, which I don't think he will, it's going to be tough sledding for the Tennessee passing game. So if I have a weapon, if I have junior Chase Brown to put in PPR, I'm going to go with Jaylen Warren. Albert Driver, 12 team, 6-point standard. So when you have 6 points, passing touchdown, and non-PPR, that is just quarterback mania. Everything's about the quarterback. But this question does not involve a quarterback, it looks like. But I have to keep in mind it is non-PPR. Achane Wright, Chubb, Warren, Braylon Allen, and Jordan Mason. Oh, okay. So that's your team. IR will open one spot up, no cuts. Pick one from... Okay. So you're just giving me your team, but the question is about picking one of Monangai, Marks, or Tesla. It's definitely not Woody Marks. I know you have Nick Chubb, but Woody Marks is not. Here's my Houston Texans running back priority. Nick Chubb is either going to come back to be kind of like his old superstar self from a couple years ago, and he's going to be the clear number one running back for the Texans, or Nick Chubb still has enough juice left in the tank, but he's not his old self, and he's playing behind a very suspect offensive line, and it's just boring. It's something, but it's boring. Those are my first two thoughts on the Houston backfield. The next thought after that is, I think if Chubb went down, they would split Pierce and Ogunbowale, and I think Ogunbowale is who they prefer. They've done that in the recent past when Mixon has been hurt. They'll go to Ogunbowale. And at minimum, Ogunbowale will be in on a split. Pierce is not that great. So if something happens to Chubb, it's going to be a Pierce-Ogunbowale split behind a bad offensive line. You really don't want any part of that unless you're super desperate at the time. The third when I would get to the bottom of my list of the Houston backfield, it would be, and then Woody Marks is relevant. I think if they sustained injury, like if Chubb went down and he's done, and Mixon's probably not coming back this season, and if Chubb goes down week 1, Houston's going and trading and finding and signing and doing something for a running back. They are not going to entertain winning the division and going to the playoffs again led by Woody Marks. This is not going to happen. They will not allow that to happen. So I have little to no interest in Woody Marks from every angle, from a scouting perspective to he's a rookie that's shaky. He worked 4th team running back in the preseason. I just don't see anything coming from Marks. I love Isaac Tesla, but there's no way he's going to leapfrog Jameson Williams, Laporta, Gibbs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the targeting hierarchy. He's going to do something. He may even have 2 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown opening week on a big play touchdown because he was lesser covered than the other guys. But there's not going to be, unless mass injuries happen, there's not going to be a Isaac Tesla routinely gets 5 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown every week. It's not happening. He's a distant number 3 wide receiver who's barely worked with the first team and nowhere near worked with the first team like All-Pro Amon-Ra St. Brown and probably All-Pro this year Jameson Williams and All-Pro year 1 Sam Laporta and All-Pro Jahmyr Gibbs. Tesla's, as a rookie, is not going to leapfrog all of them to fantasy relevance unless major injuries hit. But Monangai, I would not be surprised if he was splitting with DeAndre Swift week 1 and that he didn't walk away with maybe more carries or more touches than Swift does in that game. I'm not totally positive about that, but I think Ben Johnson's kind of giving me vibes of he wants to go Monangai. Not fully, not like everybody else will do nothing, but if Swift has an issue, and Swift has had issues, Monangai seems to be the alternative. There's not a lot discussed about Roschon Johnson. So of those 3, I would pick Monangai to just sit on and let's see what happens. Woody Marks is never going to be anything for fantasy this year. Tesla, sadly, probably won't either. He'll have moments, but you will never know when they're coming to use them. Unless Jameson Williams goes down and out, and then they have to push Tesla some more. But Monangai, maybe right off the bat, may shock everybody with how involved he is in the offense. So I've invested in a lot of late round Monangai just to see. If I'm wrong about that, I got guys I got to cut. Because I know after I watch week 1, I'm going to have the hots for about 5 guys that are on waivers that I'm kicking myself that I didn't invest in or whatever. I got to drop people to get to these waiver players. And they're not always the most obvious waiver players. I usually see something in a player that didn't have a lot of production, but the way they were used, the snap counts, the whole thing, it's like, oh my goodness, we got to make room for this player. So if Monangai barely sees the field, you can cut Monangai and jump onto something else hot off of waivers. Andrew Apostle, full PPR start, 1 of 3. Matthew Golden, I cannot start. I would be trading Matthew Golden hot right now. Then Rashid Shaheed or Mims. I will go with Mims as the full number 2 starter. Working with Bo Nix is potentially going to be more fruitful than Shaheed as the number 2 with the Spencer Rattler start against a pretty tough Arizona defense. It'd be between Shaheed and Mims. I would lean Mims in that case, but I'm just not into Matthew Golden. But that doesn't mean that Matthew Golden can't get forced touches and do something with them. I just don't know that Golden's that good of a wide receiver. Albert Driver as a Hurts owner, non-PPR 6 Dynasty, would you stash McKee? No. Or Spears on IR? No. I mean, unless your league there's never any quarterbacks available, I'm not going out of my way to stash Tanner McKee. If your season starts to come, I mean, you got Hurts, Stroud, and Fields. In no universe will you, if you put Tanner McKee on that team for free, if they expanded an extra roster spot just for you, just so you could have Tanner McKee, and then Jalen Hurts retired from the NFL tomorrow, you'll never use Tanner McKee. So I would say anybody but McKee. Spears makes enough sense if you're wanting to sit on somebody early. Langchamp, 12 team, PPR redraft. If Ridley and Jameson don't fall to you in the 4th and the 5th, do you have any other wide receivers you like to complete the RB, QB, RWR sandwich? One of Ridley or Jameson is going to be at number 4. Almost assuredly. But if they don't, and it has happened. It hasn't happened recently because ever since the rise of Isaac Tesla seems to be taking a lot of the steam out of Jameson Williams. Jameson's definitely gonna be there. Ridley usually is too. The question is whether you're gonna get one or the other with your 5th pick. But let's say you don't get to the 4th. If you don't get them in the 4th, when I don't get either of them in the 4th for some reason, I'd be looking to hoping and praying Travion Henderson is there in the 4th, but he seems to be going in the 3rd now. Travion Henderson is the one player in the 4th round that if I've gone RB, QB, and I look on my system and I see that Jameson and Ridley aren't getting a lot of respect, and I sit there and think I could take Henderson in the 4th, then risk it that one of Jameson or Ridley are going to be there in the 5th, and I'll just be super RB strong, and I'll have to make up my wide receivers, whichever one I get in the 5th. I'll just have to make sure I'm getting a Josh Downs and a Deebo Samuel in like the 7th and 8th and 9th round. So you could get tilted and be running back powerful. You could walk out with Henry, Chase Brown, quarterback, and then Travion Henderson in the 4th round. Have those 3 running backs. That would be insane. Then if you get a wide receiver in the 5th, and then Jalen Warren is who I want in the 6th. If you come out of this draft in the first 4 picks with 4 running backs, and those 4 running backs are like a Henry, like a Chase Brown or Bucky, and then Travion Henderson, who I think for PPR is just going to be amazing, and then you get Jalen Warren in the 6th. If those are your 4 running backs you walk out of this thing with in the first 6 rounds, and you only got 1 wide receiver, but you got 4 running backs, there's no problem with that. There's going to be wide receivers. Debo's going to be coming up in the 7th. Josh Downs will be out there probably to the 9th and 10th round. Marvin Mims, 11th and 12th round. You can make up wide receivers. And then when those running backs are so good, so let's say you don't like your wide receivers after week 1 and week 2, but you got this powerful group of running backs, somebody's going to want one of those running backs when you're not using Jalen Warren, when he's your 4th running back on the bench and you're not using him at flex, and he's just racking points on your bench. Somebody desperate for a running back will come that will have a wide receiver who didn't have a first 2 good games, and they'll be desperate to dump him and be desperate to chase your Jalen Warren. So you don't have to solve the entire universe in your redraft. The point is to get the greatest assets you can with your first 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 picks. After that, we're gonna pretty much get what we want. But especially those first 5, just as long as they're a great 5. I like the RB, QB, wide receiver sandwich approach, but sometimes I'll take Travion Henderson in the 4th in a PPR and just risk it that Ridley and Jameson will be there in the 5th, and then have some outside prayer that one of them might slip to the 6th. Doubtful, but Jan Sawicki, 14 team, 14 player roster, so small roster, half PPR, quarterback. So is there a question with that? Hold on, I've just fast forwarded too far. Jan Sawicki. Thoughts on your team. Herbert is good. It means you did not buy into the early quarterback theory. I don't like that, especially in half PPR. But if you're gonna fade the quarterback, Herbert is good. That's good running back power with Henry, Henderson, and Pacheco. Tracy's okay. Spears on IR. All right. Brian Thomas Jr. is fine. Higgins is fine. Mims is fine. Coleman. Oh, Keon Coleman. Yeah. People want to take a shot on Keon Coleman. Is cool. I'm not into it, but I mean, how many more wide receivers is Buffalo going to sign that do kind of what Keon Coleman does? Josh Palmer. They just signed Gabe Davis. I think that. No, that was bad information I got. I was gonna say they did sign Gabe Davis, but I saw something where he was named captain, and I was like, really? They just signed him and named him captain? But it was like from 2 years ago. Why is this report popping up in my Google feed from 2 years ago? Rashee Rice is not a bad sit. Can you put Rashee Rice in the IR position? With Tesla, and I just 14 team I can see stretching out for Tesla, but there's if I had the choice in redraft, the choice between Tesla, I always call him Tesla, I know it's Tesla. If I had a choice between Tesla and Malik Washington, I would probably lean Malik Washington in that. I would think about if you have Rashee Rice, a Juju Smith-Schuster might be the right fit as a bridge to Rashee. He's going to be in Rashee Rice's role. He won't be Rashee Rice, but I mean, he's in that role, so who knows what's going to happen. He could be the bridge to Rashee Rice returning. So I just don't think Tesla's going to pay off. You're not going to start Tesla with that group that you have. So you're hoping that Tesla gets so good that you're going to be forced to use them, or you can trade them. But over time, Tesla's not going to be highly targeted in Detroit unless Jameson Williams goes down. But then I don't think he's then a plug-and-play, obvious, going to do what Jameson Williams does. It's a little too soon to expect Tesla to pay off this year. Colin McKenna, how are you, RC? I am doing well. Getting ready, starting to get a little jumpy or freaked out that the season's actually going to start tomorrow. Draft started out well. Henry JT did good. Warren over Ridley in the 6th. That's fine. Should I be regretting it as much as I am? I rounded my receivers out with Waddle, Downs, and Mims. Nope. We're going to look back on this potentially and go, how was Josh Downs going in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round of redrafts? Like, Downs should have been a top 70 player, wide receiver. So you being super running back strong, I mean, I just went through the scenario of why being running back strong is totally fine. you want to be, if you're gonna be tilted strong in one direction, it has to be running back, which is why I say this year we start out looking to go running back. If you start 3 wide receivers and only 2 running backs, then we can have a conversation about how much you need to be tied to the RB start. But part of the RB start is because of the running backs you can get there. When Jamar Chase goes off the board among the wide receivers, I got a real question about the number 2 to number 20 wide receiver, about how really good they're going to be. We don't know what Justin Jefferson's going to be like with J.J. McCarthy. I'm sure it's going to be great, but we don't know. There's Jamar Chase's situation is predictable. Which is why I call it holy. I know what Jamar Chase is going to do with Joe Burrow, injuries aside. I know what they're going to do. T. Higgins is there, Chase is there, Burrow is there. It's the same group, same coach, same everything. I don't know what Justin Jefferson's going to do with J.J. McCarthy. I think it's going to be really good, but I don't fully know. What and do I love the Houston passing game enough to make Nico Collins the number 2 wide receiver, which has been a debate Ross and I have had about whether he should be up there. I can see the case for it, but what if Jaden Higgins starts to, who is starting, what if he's really good out of the gates? Does he take enough of the work away to where Nico Collins is good? I mean, he's a wide receiver 1, but is he going to be like a game-changing wide receiver 1? I think he is, but that Houston O-line, the disappointing Houston offense and disappointing Stroud last year, bringing in the 2 Iowa State rookie talented wide receivers. I think Malik Neighbors may be the most talented receiver in the game, but what if his foot blows up? I think Puka's going to be fantastic with Stafford, but what if Stafford's back is worse? What if Devontae Adams really does take some of the work away? Brian Thomas looks cool, but what if Travis Hunter really puts a dent in his targets? Amon-Ra St. Brown has been so steady, but what if this is the Jameson Williams breakout? Then Amon-Ra is not going to be that guy that just gets all the targets all the time. And Jameson gets, some good scraps and make some big plays. Jameson's is starting to become a real wide receiver. Some of that real wide receiverness, and if Tesla is playing instead of Tim Patrick, you don't have to throw every pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown anymore. So I say that in that all those wide receivers after Jamar Chase, they're good, but I've got questions. So I don't have any questions about taking Derrick Henry in the first. I don't have any questions about taking Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson or Saquon Barkley. I can see going in on Christian McCaffrey. I like Derrick Henry. And then when I flip around in the second and I see, you look at the second round wide receivers and they're okay, but I think Jameson Williams and Calvin Ridley belong in the second round. They're not going to be, but they should be in the second round. So I'm going to get my second round wide receivers in the 4th and the 5th. But there in the second round, there sits Bucky Irving. There sits Chase Brown. Those are 2 guys that should be in the first round as running backs. Jonathan Taylor could be sitting there. So the RB start is more to do with the talent level of the running backs there. And I will say this. I'm going to cough first and then I'll say it. I will say this. This is how rookie deranged I am on Travion Henderson. If you're picking early, like you have a number 1, 2, 3 draft pick, and you take a running back, if you take Saquon, let's say, or even if you take Jamar Chase, whatever you do in the high first, you're going to be picking in the very late second. And let's say all the good guys, Chase Brown is gone, and Bucky is gone, and Derrick Henry is gone, and Jonathan Taylor is gone, and you're like, oh crap, I don't have a running back. If you took Jamar Chase, you're like, I don't have a running back. If you took Saquon, you're like, well, all the good running backs are taken. I guess I'll do something else. I have taken TreVeyon Henderson with my back-to-back picks, second and third. Take a quarterback third. And pull TreVeyon Henderson all the way into the second round, because I know I'm not going to pick again after I make that second and third turn. I ain't picking again for a year, so there ain't going to be no TreVeyon Henderson there in the third round or fourth round if I wanted to entertain it. So I'll put TreVeyon Henderson in PPR up into the RB start. So it's just, that's where the talent is. If I look at the wide receivers, it's like there's Devonta Smith. There's, who else is there? It's so boring I can't even remember who's in that group. At the turn of wide receivers in the second, it's like, yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown is good. I could deal with A.J. Brown. Lad McConkey, I'm into. I'll take it. I'd rather take Trey McBride than a wide receiver in the second. I mean, I respect T. Higgins, but he just doesn't get me that excited. I don't want anything to do with Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I just think the running backs in the second round are so much better than the wide receivers by and large. So that's why I tend to go running back. And especially because running backs are going to run by the sixth and seventh round. Is slim pickings of the running backs, but the wide receivers were kind of just getting started. Devo's going to be out there, Downs, Mims. I don't know why I went off on that. Why did I go off on that? Oh, Jansen Wiki's question about thoughts about his team. So, oh no, it's Colin McKenna. Was it Colin McKenna's? Yeah, this is Jalen Warren regretting that I rounded out my wide receivers with Waddle, Downs, and Mims. No, that's, if you're going to tilt in a direction of being strong, overloaded at a position, and seemingly thinner at another, it's going to be running backs early, not running backs late. The running backs late are really risky. The wide receivers late, Waddle's fine. Downs could be a wide receiver 1. Mims could be a wide receiver 1.5. And if you get, and there's enough wide receivers out there on waivers still, and other guys that you could get where, okay, Waddle, Downs, and Mims may not scare anybody, but, and you go, who am I going to start this week? You know, I got to start 2 of these guys, or you already got McLaurin and Jameson, so your other wide receiver that you had to start, if it's flex or if it's a third wide receiver, you just go with Waddle, Downs, and Mims. You just, whoever's got the best matchup, whoever's got the hottest hand. Those are 3 great guys to play a hot hand with. To finish out your question, had I gone Ridley, I would have Javonte as my RB3. I like Javonte as the RB3, but I like Jalen Warren way better than that. And then Chubb as an RB4. I don't know if you got him or not, but I like Chubb as an RB4. Colin McKenna, thanks for confirming my decision, or apologies for upsetting you with my stupidity. Nope, you're... Jalen Warren is going to be one of the key... We're going to look back, I have a feeling, and go, the whole Jalen Warren thing for this past month, when I sounded the alarm bell on that, that's going to be one of the game changers of 2025, I think, is getting Jalen Warren at the value that we got him at. Everybody's going to have great teams out of the first couple of rounds. There's just a ton of great talent out there. some of your league mates are going to step into traps and take themselves out in the first 3 or 4 rounds by taking dumb players, but even the dumbest people in your league, there's enough good players that they could randomly fall on them in the first 3 rounds. After the first 3 rounds, after the first 4 rounds, there's going to be other teams that are maybe as strong an outlook as we are. But then when you start picking off the Jalen Warrens, and when you start picking off the Javonte Williamses late, when you pick off a Josh Downs, you pick off a Nick Chubb, then you get that top defense, and then you pay up and you get Brandon Aubrey. Then that's when we put the accelerator down and go past them. Chris Primu, is Pacheco going to have a bounce back year? I just think he is. I am leaning to thinking he is. I was suspect of that to start the season, but I think he's going to have a bounce back, but he is not going to be all encompassing for touches. Kareem Hunt is going to probably play about a third. Whatever Pacheco's doing, Hunt will be about half of that or less. So like if Pacheco gets 15 touches, Hunt's going to get 6 or 7. So I don't see, and it's never been that way, but Pacheco's not going to be a 20 touch a game guy. There's rare few left that are. And I like Pacheco. Speaking of Pacheco, so there's a lot of drafts lately. I'm getting Jalen Warren in the 6th, and then, oh, by the way, Pacheco's sitting there in the 7th, and I'm like, I'm already loaded on running backs, but can I turn down Pacheco when I can get him? And if he goes off, I can trade him for a wide receiver if I need wide receivers, or then Debo's there within my next pick, and then Downs is there, and then Mims is there, and then I'm back in business. Chris Fraser and Jan Sawicki, at the beginning were checking, give me the sound good and video and audio good. I so appreciate when you guys do that. My greatest fear is I'm going to start talking and forget to hit the button on the microphone, or that I've screwed up something with the system for the audio or video feed, and I can't see it, but you can. So anytime, I usually ask, but if you could, when I'm signing on, if anybody who can give me a thumbs up on the video and audio right off the bat, that gives me a great peace of mind. I appreciate that. Silent Warrior, thoughts on Ridley this week at Denver? Yeah, we went through that one earlier. If you missed it, go back to the beginning whenever you want to. I went and talked about Ridley versus Denver at length. Purple Byron, thoughts on the New England Patriots wide receivers? I don't like it. I don't think it's a very good group. It's an okay group. And Drake May's not a great quarterback, so it's going to be trouble for all of them. Diggs is probably going to lead them, but I don't think this is not the Stephon Diggs of years ago. If I'm wrong, then he's going to be doing well for some other team, not mine, because I'm not taking the risk. I didn't like what I saw in Houston before he got hurt. Now he's coming off of getting hurt, ACL tear. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his game. I didn't like his game for the last 2 years. The last year of Buffalo, the first and only year of Houston. Then he gets hurt. Now he's on the worst maybe passing game he's been on in his career. No thank you to Diggs. Mac Hollins is never going to be a league winner, although I respect him as an NFL option. Demario Douglas is probably going to have his host of 4 catches for 40 yards and no touchdown games, and he's going to be on and off of teams. He'll have a game where he has 6 catches for 70 yards and no touchdowns, and wide receiver desperate teams will pick him up off of waivers, and then he'll go back to being Demario Douglas, and then he'll be dropped on the waivers, but then picked up to fill in for a bye week, hoping that this is the week he's got a good matchup and he's going to get his 6 catches again. I don't want to deal. I can pick up Demario Davis throughout a normal season, or like Demario Davis players like Wan'Dale Robinson. So I don't like any of that group of fantasy football. I think Kyle Williams is more talented than all of them, but he lost time in training camp when he got clocked in the head, and they don't seem to be giving into him or trying to push him or treat him with the respect I think he deserves. So it'll be a while before Kyle Williams gets in, but eventually they'll go to Kyle Williams, probably when Diggs gets himself punted from the team by doing something stupid. But I don't know if Kyle Williams will appear week 4, week 8, week 1 of 2026. I think Kyle Williams is their best receiver, and I don't even know if he's their number 4 in their mind. So someday it'll be Kyle Williams, but right now it's those other jokers, and I just don't think it's very good, and I think Drake May stinks, so I really don't want anything to do with the Patriots wide receivers. Ryan Hornish is wishing a happy football eve. So much excitement. The excitement is about to hit in full scale tomorrow. The countdown tomorrow is, if I remember correctly, with it being opening day, it's kind of calm in the morning for me. And then as we get into the afternoon and we get closer to it being game time, it's like it starts to settle in. It's like I can't hardly focus because I'm like, oh, we're going to get a game tonight. And it's going to be a good and interesting game. They pretty much all are, but I like this first matchup because I really think Dallas is going to give the Eagles a game. Mike H. Hey and thanks. Pick 2, Mims, Pollard, Aaron Jones, and Warren. I don't know what your scoring system is, but Pollard and Warren as the known lead RB1s getting heavy touch counts would be typically the way I would lean. Mims I would use in case of you need some mass points. You need somebody to do something crazy and have multiple touchdowns and long play touchdown. That's where Mims could come in. But I would probably play it safe with Pollard and Warren. Jansawicki, start 2. One must be a flex. Or one must be a running back, the other a flex. Travion, if this is PPR, and try to remember to put in what the scoring system is as it pertains to your question. If you're talking about quarterbacks, let me know what the scoring system is. Is it 4 points, touchdown pass, 6 points? Are there any bonuses? Helps. If we're talking non-quarterbacks, let me know if it's PPR, half, or non. So, in general, I'm going with Travion, and then I'm going with Pacheco over. I'd go with Travion and Pacheco over Tracy, over Mims, and definitely over Coleman. Torque Penderloin, current leader in the clubhouse for handle of the year. Non-PPR, last flex, start one of Tillman, Downs, Rodriguez. If it was PPR, I would say Downs. Non-PPR mixes it up a little bit. You're probably not facing Flacco or Daniel Jones, so there's no tie-in there. Cleveland's 1 o'clock. I'm sure Indy's 1 o'clock, so these are all 1 o'clock decisions. That's going to be a conundrum because I could see Chris Rodriguez only getting 5 or 6 carries, but at least one of them is a touchdown. And in non-PPR, if somebody scores a touchdown, they're gold. So if Josh Downs catches 7 passes for 50 yards and no touchdowns, you're only getting 5 points. If Rodriguez rushes for 30 yards, but one of them's a touchdown, then you got 9. Then if he goes for 2 touchdowns, then he's an ace. But I think he'd probably only do 1 touchdown. They'd probably have Jaden Daniels, Debo, or Eckler or somebody run one in. Because the Chris Rodriguez is such a mystery, I wouldn't go there. I would make my decision between Tillman and Downs. And that's a close enough call to make it be your choice. Downs is probably the safest but Tillman's got a case to be in a shootout, and he's more of a touchdown maker. Marsh Lamb, first up, RC and Ross, thanks for all the support and help to this point. We appreciate that. Huge help this offseason in drafting. Excellent. And then we're going to be a huge help for waivers and sit start. Marsh Lamb, full PPR, pick 2, Warren Downs, Shakir, Rodriguez, starting Kincaid. Warren definitely, and then it would be a Downs, Shakir question, would not be Rodriguez. And I would say that would probably be your choice of what direction to go into, Downs or Shakir. And that may come down to some of these sit start questions, which this being week 1 and we're all excited, I'm ready, willing, and able to talk about the sit starts now, especially because it allows me to talk about some of these players longer form. But normally we don't talk sit start until Sunday, because the Thursday action is going to come in and potentially change your thought process. The Friday action is going to come in and could change it from what it was after Thursday, or make it even worse. So a lot of what we're going to do on Sunday for sit start is going to be based on what happened Thursday, Friday. So that part aside, I would say Jalen Warren for sure, and then a down Shakir choice. If you have Josh Allen, maybe you want to stack Kincaid and Shakir. If the Bills are missing 2 corners, and you start to see that as a shootout, maybe you do stack Shakir and Kincaid. Foodbanger, 6-point PPR. Baker Herbert. So you've got it. That's your roster. Then you've got a question underneath that. So I'm going to jump to that, and then I'll jump back up to your roster. Start Herbert over Mayfield or Jameson over McLaurin. Tough decisions. Let me look at your lineup. So you've got Ladd tied to Herbert. You don't have anything tied to Baker. That's a tough question. That is a conundrum. Let me go to the other one. Jameson or McLaurin. I like them both, for sure. Just looking at the times of the games again. You have to make that decision at 1 o'clock because McLaurin's playing. I mean, I'd probably start asking as tiebreakers, like, are you facing Goff or are you facing Jaden Daniels? Do you want to stack Herbert and Ladd, or do you want to stay away from that and diversify? Those are very tight decisions that I don't know that we can answer properly today, because we'll at least get to see Thursday. You got to make the decision on Herbert on Friday. In a bubble, if I had to make the decision right now and had no opportunity to change, so I needed to lock it in right now. Looking at the projections, I mean, Mayfield, it's in 6-point especially, has proven to be a high-level passer, high-volume passer, facing a weak, kind of a weaker secondary and defense in the Falcons. I'd almost want to go Herbert there, or Baker there, and then Jameson versus McLaurin. Jameson has, they're right with each other on the projections. I would say it is a coin toss. If there's any tie-in, like if you're facing Jaden Daniels, you might want to have McLaurin in to checkmate him. If you're facing Goff, same thing for Jameson. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Jamison Williams just for the thought that McLaurin hasn't had a full preseason. So maybe there's just a slight bit of rust that Jamison Williams doesn't have. Just as a nitpicky way to make the decision. Going back up to the question for Marsh Lamb. Half PPR pick 2, Shakir, Mims, Gordon, Juwan Jennings, Downs. Definitely not Juwan Jennings, just because he hasn't really been going to the rust factor and all that. When you got all these other good options, why push it? The only way I would do Ollie Gordon is if Achane is a problem. Half PPR, Downs and Shakir can be pretty similar, but I lean Downs. But if Buffalo loses both of their corners, I might sense a shootout that Shakir could be involved in on. And then Mims is kind of a wild card as to what. This will be the first. Week 1 is going to be the first time that Marvin Mims has fully started as the number 2 wide receiver that's going to play 80+% of the snaps. He's always played 30 to 55% of the snaps off the top of my head. He played a low amount of snaps last year for the output that he gave. So I don't know what he may go crazy when he's playing as a full starter for 80% of the snaps. So I don't want to sell Mims short to be in starting lineups, but there's a mild fear that they're not going to break out the big playbook for him because they're facing Tennessee and they're not going to need to do that. They're going to have some tough matchups coming up in the weeks 3, 4, and 5. They have some rough matchups. But the first 2 weeks, I think they got cupcake matchups. So are they really going to break out the Mims package in those games? So, but it would be between Shakir, Mims, and Downs. Not Jennings, not Gordon at this point. And then the waiver guys, I don't see that any of the waivers guys has to go up over the top of anybody that you have. Dropping Charbonnet, if you don't have Kenneth Walker, if you want to drop Charbonnet to take a shot on Tank Bigsby being... Tank Bigsby has a shot of being the lead running back for Jacksonville. They intend to split those two guys because Tootin isn't working out the way that they hoped at this point. So for week 1, they're going to go with the experienced guys. And when they do that, Bigsby's just better than ETN. If they give him an equal shot, Bigsby's going to be a better looking running back. So he may win their hearts and minds in the game, where in practice, I don't know that Bigsby's a great practice running back because Doug Peterson never really gave in to Bigsby, never even hardly said nice things about him. But when he was forced to give him a workload, Bigsby was great. So Bigsby has as much of a chance of walking out of week 1 as like, oh, I've impressed the new regime. I'm a real starter. As much as ETN has the same hope, but I think Bigsby's better than ETN. I don't think Charbonnet's not overtaking Kenneth Walker, but Bigsby could overtake the ETN split easily. He might not, but there's no way Charbonnet's gonna go from any type of... First off, Bigsby's in a 50-50 split right away. Charbonnet's 1/3 against Walker's 2/3. So that's the start point. So Bigsby's already better right the way that they're used. But Charbonnet's not going to be so good that all of a sudden everybody's talking about him as the new lead running back in Seattle, week 2. But Bigsby could be so good that they're like, oh, we have found our running back. Seattle knows Kenneth Walker's their running back. Jacksonville, I don't think knows who their lead running back's really gonna be in week 2, 3, 4, 5. Could be Etienne, could be Bigsby. I guess it could be Tootin. Food banger, start Herbert over Mayfield or Jameson over McLaurin. We dealt with that one. Jules McCoy in a flex. Travion, Jameson, or Tet. Wow, that's a lot of power. But I would go with Travion just to have somebody who I think is going to get their hands on the ball between rushing and receiving 15 times probably. Jameson and Tet are not going to get 15 touches. And I'll bet Travion gets more catches than either of those guys as well. Food banger. My RBs have me wanting to make windows out of walls. And the running backs are Chuba, who's really good, Travion, who could be great, Pollard, who should be trading much higher and is starting to. Tank Bigsby could be the lead running back for Jacksonville. Jacory is a long shot. Benson is a handcuff. So, I don't. But you got Jamar and Ladd, and so your wide receiver strong. You're solid at quarterback. You're fine at running back. You got a tight end problem. You don't have a running back problem. Jules McCoy, pick a wide receiver and a flex. Pollard, Ridley, Eckler, Jawan Jennings. I would just Pollard for sure is more projected for touches over Eckler when you just look at running backs. Then it would be between Ridley and Eckler. I want to see what Jawan Jennings is doing versus jamming him into a lineup in week 1. I just want to see how they use him, what's up. So I would choose from Ridley and Eckler, and in that case, I might lean Ridley there, hoping for garbage time, and just because we just don't know how Washington's going to use those running backs. I know Ridley's going to be Tennessee's number 1 wide receiver. How effective is it against Denver? We'll see. But what Eckler is going to do amidst all of the other guys for touches, I have no idea. Jules McCoy, last one, non-PPR, pick a running back and a flex from Warren, Travion, Mims, Allen, Waddle. I would just go with guys who I know are going to get the ball a bunch, Warren and Travion. NJ Fantasy Pro here. So effing happy to be kicking off yet another season with you and your insight. That sounded like a paid plug, but it wasn't. Let's go. It was better than a paid plug because it wasn't a paid plug. But this is a private chat. Everybody's already paid up to be here, so you're preaching to the choir, which is much appreciated. I'm looking forward to it. I'm starting to get amped just going through everybody's lineups and seeing who we got and all that, seeing who everybody's got and who you got to choose from in your lineups. I'm starting to get jacked. I love these names that I'm seeing. And I'd love to see how many people have Jalen Warren. Jules McCullough, Jalen Warren. Wow, oh, we did that. GM Read 7. Made a trade in Dynasty PPR. I gave Amon-Ra and Rashad White for Jameson Williams and a 26 first, which should be very high. Did I give up too much? No, I don't believe so. Now, I would look at it like this. Which I don't like to make trades in Dynasty to get draft picks before the season even starts, because we typically have teams that are ready to compete for a title. So what do I want draft picks for, really? I need real players. But they are assets to use to trade in season, like your team's getting good in your week 4 and week 5, and all the weak hands start to panic and want to trade off and start. The one thing, I'll say it again, the one thing about Dynasty owners that I know, they cannot wait to call it quits for a season and get to the rebuild, because then it's a safe space environment where the losses don't matter because you've given up on the season and you're into the tinkering rebuild, which is the part of fantasy that we love. The manipulating the roster and the trades and the draft picks and all that, which is great. I mean, I love it too. But we're trying to win titles here. So I don't like to give away really good players and get draft picks before the season even starts if I've got a real contending team. But in this situation, I can see that I don't think Jameson will be that far off of Amon-Ra St. Brown production this year. And I'm just thinking this year when we talk about how it expands out. And then Rachaad White is just another good backup running back on a team that I don't know that he'll get any more touches than Kareem Hunt's going to get with the Chiefs or Zach Charbonnet's going to get with Seattle. So if Amon-Ra versus Jameson isn't far off this year, and then for the future, either Jameson Williams is going to have a stupendous year because it just looks like he's really geared himself up to get to his big contract. His body looks better than ever. His work late last season, he was okay in a great spot with Detroit his first couple of years, but the second half of last year, when I went back and I watched his entire season this summer, you could see him really progressing. He was really becoming more of a real wide receiver in the second half of last year. Now he's bigger and thicker and more dedicated, trying to get to that big contract. He should not be far off of Amon-Ra this year. And then if he has a great year, he's either going to be back with Detroit again and be in the same boat with Amon-Ra, or he's going to be the most coveted free agent wide receiver in the class and go off to be hopefully something good somewhere else. The Rachaad White has some hope in free agency next year, but I don't have a lot of hope for NFL GMs to see how good Rachaad White can be. So I don't like giving up Rachaad White. I'd like to be an acquirer of Rachaad White going into next year, even if that's mid-season, because I think he could be a player for somebody next year. But if you're going to give me a high first-round draft pick that I can use to trade if I need players, that first is way better than owning Rachaad White. So you shouldn't be too far off of Amon-Ra with Jameson, but then you're getting a way better. If you turned around and tried to flip that 26 first after week 2, the type of player you could buy would put Rachaad White to shame and would make up the gap of Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra if there is going to be a gap. So I think you're fine with that trade. Now, other people see it as they think Rachaad White is still a viable fantasy running back because he was kind of last year. But don't forget, Rachaad White was a starter much of the season. Bucky didn't really get going and taking over till late in the season. And then even then, Rachaad White would sneak in a touchdown. But Rachaad White was really limited as the season went on. And I would consider myself the world's foremost authority on Rachaad White. And it did not look good late last year. This is Bucky's offense. This is Bucky's everything. Rachaad White's going to play some, but they don't have plays for him. He's just like a basic backup running back. We're super talented, but he is not going to score like he did last year, as long as Bucky's around. So I like Rachaad for the future, but I think he's going to fall out of favor fast with people. Jameson won't be far off of Amon-Ra. That 26 first, I was saying, if we get to week 2, going into week 3, and teams are panicking, you go to trade that 26 first for a player, it's going to be way better than what Rachaad White is going to be. So that 26 first is an asset. But your opponents, I may have started to think about what your opponents think. Your opponents think that Rachaad White is going to be a viable fantasy starter, even as a backup. I don't think that's true. And they think that Amon-Ra's on a mountain, which he kind of is. But I think Jameson is coming up that mountain and is going to knock Amon-Ra down that mountain some. So the gap between them is not going to be too far off. But your league mates probably think Jameson Williams is just some random. They probably think he's the third wide receiver on Detroit because Isaac Tesla is the obvious number 2 wide receiver, just like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is the number 1 running back for Washington, and Caleb Johnson's the number 1 running back for Pittsburgh. Isaac Tesla is the new number 2. Jameson Williams is old news, and Amon-Ra is a god. How could you make this trade? I think you're going to be fine. You probably could have gotten more in the trade, although that high 26 first, if it's a high 26 first, that's a pretty good asset to get because of its flip value or use value, but especially its flip value. Callis John, I, along with many others, were excited to read all the positive Caleb Johnson scouting reports. And I would now pause and I would say I'm was right there with everybody writing great reports about Caleb Johnson. But then I realized, whatever week that was, week 2 of the season, that Caleb Johnson had gone wrong. Now there's more updates that he's a potential bust. Yes. Especially for me. I don't know about to the world, but especially for me for the last 3 weeks now. Thoughts on trading him to regain assets? Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm looking at that. I'm not giving him away. He's got some value because people more believe he's going to be the guy, although that Jaylen Warren contract that scared some people, but the time to sell off Caleb was a couple weeks ago, but there's still time, but he's losing value rapidly. He may be, if you don't own Jaylen Warren but somebody else does, trading him to the Jaylen Warren owner may be the best, most fertile ground to try to trade him to. And to just expand further on the Caleb Johnson thing, because it's probably the worst scouting call of this draft year. I'm saying that slow because I'm trying to think if there was somebody else worse than that for me. I thought Caleb Johnson was going to be one of the 3 or 4 best running backs from this draft class that his run style just fit the NFL perfect. I didn't know he was going to go chicken blank when he got to the NFL. So, because you don't usually see that with big-time interior runners in college, that they just turn into complete cowards when they get to the NFL. But that's what's happening with Caleb. So it's a terrible call. The question now is kind of like the stock market. So this stock was flying high at one time. It was $100 stock, even though the company was new and a lot of the valuation of the stock was a lot of hype and potential and hope. Let's say Caleb Williams was for all intents and purposes $100 stock, and if you're in the stock market, I would add on that it's a very high PE because there wasn't a lot of earnings. It was just a lot of hope. So then we come to find out this company kind of stinks, and there's other companies in their space that are just way better than them. But some people are still hanging on to the thought that, this company, they invested in this company and they don't, and now the stock went from 100 to, let's say, 65. And I'm using those numbers on purpose, like 100% valuation, like 100 grade on a test. Like, he was probably a 90 grade, a $90 stock out of 100 a month or so ago. Now he's probably a $65 stock. Now he's a D plus type of stock, C minus type of stock. You're hoping maybe people are going to buy him as a C plus as the future, as they tend to do. So you bought this stock at 90 and now it's down to 65. People typically get scared to sell it because they're like, what if it goes back up to 90? Like, I should wait for it to go higher and try to get my 90. If this was a really good stock and a really good company that was just getting kind of a raw deal from the market, there's a time to just hold on to guys and hope that they can puff their value up. And then there's situations where you're like, if I don't take $65 for this stock and eat it, the fact that I paid 90 for it, if I don't take the 65 now, it's going to be 55 a week from now, and then it's going to be 50. Then people aren't really going to want it, even if it's at 45 or 50, and then I'm just stuck with it. It might be a $65 stock. You paid 90, it's now worth 65. You might find somebody who will pay you 75 for it, who still believes. It's not going to be one offer to somebody and then they turn it down and then you throw your hands up and go, oh, I knew I shouldn't have drafted this guy. Nobody trades in my league. You might have to make 11 offers to the 11 owners in your league, if it's a 12-team league, to try to find the Caleb lover in the group, because he's kind of at risk right now. A lot of people are onto that there's a question mark here, but I'm with the Caleb Johnson situation of, from what I've seen, and Jalen Warren getting this contract, if I can get $75 for this stock that I paid 90 for, I'll take it. And maybe the best thing you can get out of Caleb Johnson is Caleb Johnson plus blank player for, if this is Dynasty, an older player that people are giving up on or want to give up on. So you might have a decent player to fill in and then hook Caleb Johnson on with them to try to get a Derrick Henry or a Tyreek Hill, which would be less. It'd be more for Derrick Henry, less to get Tyreek Hill. Maybe a Mike Evans, maybe somebody that can give you some ROI this year. And yeah, they're not going to be around 5 years from now, but I don't know that Caleb Johnson's going to be around 5 years from now. So you might be able to take and turn chicken blank into chicken salad, but I would be, from what I've seen, and with Pittsburgh doing the deal with Jalen Warren, it kind of cinches it. I had this feeling when Carolina did this with Chuba Hubbard, with Jonathan Brooks. I had this feeling with Anthony Richardson when they turned on him and benched him, that it wasn't just a little blip. It was a sign that this has gone wrong, and it's time to take the money you can get for Anthony Richardson now, Jonathan Brooks now, back last year, and Caleb Johnson now. I'm not giving them away. If I can't get anything for them, you might as well just hold on to them and hope. There's no sense in selling the stock for 30 when it should be at 65 range, and you're hoping to maybe sucker somebody in the 75 because he's a rookie. There's no sense in taking 30 just to say you did it. Just say, hey, I did it. I dumped Caleb Johnson. I was supposed to dump him. You said dump him, so I got rid of him. No, if I'm only going to get $30 for the stock, I'll just hold on to it and see if maybe Jalen Warren's going to tear his ACL. Maybe Caleb Johnson's going to get in and have a decent game. Maybe he's a better NFL player than he is or a regular season player than he is a preseason player. So I'm not taking nothing for him, but if I can recover some of my money for him, I'm doing it, from what I've seen. And I'm as much to blame. And I drafted him with clients on different teams with the early Dynasty rookie drafts. pick number 10, 11 in the first round. It's like Caleb Johnson's there. It's like, hey, I got the Pittsburgh mostly starting running back here. I'm getting at pick 10 or 11. This is great. Well, we've been selling them off 2 weeks ago, and just taking our lumps. It's better to know it now than to discover that this is a problem that you can't get out of, and you can't get any value out of a month from now and 2 months from now. So I'm willing to take decent money today and just washing my hands of it from what I've seen. Rank these 3 running backs for potential value to hold on to in PPR should everything break their way. Krusky, Merritt, Benson, Bigsby. I think Krosky Merritt's always going to be involved in a group of 4. Somebody could get hurt and it'd be a group of 3. Somebody else could get hurt and it'd be a group of 2. I think he's always going to be in a group. Benson's a Connor injury away. Bigsby is a wild card that could just hit the ground running. So if this is going to be the last guy on the bench, operationally, I think I would like to take 1 week look and see if Tank Bigsby's real out of the gates. That Jacksonville discovers that he has this great game and they fall in love with him. Benson's not going to have that game unless Connor gets hurt. And Krosky Merritt's never going to get to that game right now. And I assume we're talking about redraft. So if this was Dynasty, I'd rather have Krosky Merritt as an asset that is a rookie that everybody likes. That he's a $65 stock or a $75 stock that's trading at like 90, or he was trading at 90. It's starting to dip now, with reality settling in, with the exuberance fading away. But he's a pretty hot stock. Nobody cares that much about Benson or Bigsby. So in Dynasty, I'd rather have Krosky Merritt. If this is redraft, which I assume that it is, I'd like to take a week 1 look at Tank Bigsby, and then again, your teams that that everybody has, your 16 player team, your 18 player team, 2 to 4 of those guys aren't going to be there after week 1 and week 2. We're going to be turning them over. We're going to be finding new and exciting things off of waivers. So you take your shot on a Tank Bigsby, and if it doesn't play out, he's going to be an easy cut to make room for the next hot thing that we're going to take a shot on. So I know Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is not going to become the breakout star in week 1 for Washington. And I know Trey Benson isn't going to be for Arizona unless James Conner is hurt and done for the year. Tank Bigsby, he may win himself the job after week 1. So you get yourself a ticket to that, and if it doesn't look good, you dump them and pick something else up off of waivers. Food Banger, any of these 3 worth... Now, hold on. Trey Benson, if I had James Conner, I'm not letting go of Trey Benson. That would be my one stipulation. Food Banger, any of these 3 worth dropping now for Kincaid as my backup to Loveland? I can't believe you're going with Loveland as your starting tight end for fantasy. That's a major problem. So I think you got a tight end problem. So I would be dropping... Now, if this is Dynasty, I'm not dropping Loveland. You can trade Loveland and get something for him. But I would be going forth with Kincaid, not Loveland. And I would probably do Tank Bigsby just to see what happens in week 1. But you can probably trade Loveland in a deal before the season starts if you hustle to it. Torque Penderloin, what's the word on Trey Harris? Once Keenan Allen arrived, that was probably the death knell of Trey Harris being a reliable, hopeful fantasy asset for 2025. Future's going to be fine, but 2025 is not looking so good with Keenan Allen in hand. So it'll probably be just a random number 3, like Isaac Tesla, like Alex Pierce. Jan Sawicki, Herbert was drafted after all 5 quarterbacks drafted before my 3rd pick. Yeah, that's cool. Burrow went 302. So, yeah, if there's a quarterback run, so if you're in the 3rd and you're hoping to do the old quarterback thing, if you're drafting at the end of the 3rd, it's dangerous, especially if it's in like a family league, friends and family. In friends and family, running backs go real fast. You almost have to take them in the 2nd round. But if you get bumped from them, if you're going to hold to the 3rd round plan, and all the big 4, big 5 get taken, and you're like, oh crap, then you can deviate and wait on Herbert. Draft in the 3rd. I would draft Travion Henderson as a hopefully giant splash asset, and then plan to take Herbert in plenty of time so I don't get scooped on him. Herbert's the one guy that I think can most break into the top 5, break into the top 3, him and Baker. Foobanger, the ultimate question is any package worth offering to poach Jalen Warren. Well, I'm definitely going to use Loveland as part of that package. Chuba, I love Chuba, love Travion, love Pollard. Nobody cares about Tank. People care about Ja'Cory Merritt. Jamar Ladd, Tyreek, Devonta, Mims, Loveland. Jamar Ladd, Tyreek. You could probably get. I could see myself trying to use. You could try Ja'Cory plus Loveland and see if they get rookie hyped to get Jalen Warren. It's probably not going to work. But if I was really wanting to get Warren to go into your backfield, which you don't desperately have to do, but if you're wanting to try to steal, at this point you want to steal Warren, you don't want to way overpay for him. If you took Devonta Smith plus Loveland to try to get Jalen Warren and a good tight end, that may be something worth looking at, or a great tight end. Or Devonta Smith for Warren, it'd be Devonta Smith for Warren plus something. So you might want to tack on, hey, I'll give you Devonta Smith plus Loveland, or I'll give you Devonta Smith plus Ja'Cory Merritt, because you're going to have to get rid of somebody to make room if you bring in 2 players. So Devonta plus one of your rookies for Jalen Warren plus one of their something. Great asset that maybe you then use that to flip into finding a better tight end. Any other worthy running back targets you can think of? I think you're fine with Chuba Hubbard, Trayvon, and Pollard. I wouldn't worry about that, especially when you must have had the number 1 pick, so you got Jamar. Then you stole Ladd, or you kept Ladd as a keeper. And Tyreek, you're wide receiver strong, and you're totally fine at running back. You pulled off a rare feat of being wide receiver strong and then going into the early middle rounds, needing running backs. I'm just guessing. But you pulled off pulling probably the 3 best running backs you could at picks number 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6. So I wouldn't be down on any of that, and I wouldn't be breaking my neck to get Jalen Warren, unless you just stole him. Jules McCoy, would you rather have Ertz, Hunter Henry, Pitts, or Theo Johnson the rest of the season? I like Theo Johnson the best out of anybody in that group, but Ertz is more solid and predictable, but that he's not necessarily locked in tight end 1 no more than the other guys are. So I think Theo Johnson belongs right in Ertz's and Henry's range. Ertz is the safe play. Theo should be okay, but could have a little bit of upside to him. But Ertz is totally safe and fine. Working with Jaden Daniels, they have a good connection. Mike Rogers, 14 start one at tight end. The only thing about your tight end decision, you could go Pitts. So like if you're really reaching at tight end, you could go Pitts and then hope everybody loves Kyle Pitts. If he has a good week one, I'm probably going to be telling everybody to sell him off. I mean, I have to see how it all came about, but people want to love Kyle Pitts. So if you have him even on the bench and he has a great week one, or that could be just he has a touchdown in week one, people are going to go gaga for Pitts. Maybe it'll be us and we'll want to keep him, but Pitts is the one that could have mega value. Like if every one of those four guys scored a touchdown in week one, people still wouldn't give a crap about Hunter Henry. People still wouldn't give a crap about Theo Johnson, and people would go, yeah, Ertz always scores touchdowns. But if Kyle Pitts scores a touchdown, there's going to be poetry written to it. Like, he's back. We knew it was just he needed, and Michael Penix and him play golf together. This is going to be, you're not going to get that with the other guys. So you could try Pitts and see if you get lucky at a week one, and if it blows up in your face, then pick up Theo Johnson for week two. Mike Rogers 14 team PPR premium for the tight end dynasty, start one at tight end, Arroyo, Okonkwo, or Culp. You gotta start Chig for week one. We don't know what Culp, we don't know how much he's going to be used right away, and we don't know how much Arroyo's going to be used right away. We do know that Chig's is a starting tight end that's going to play a lot of snaps, and he may matter in that Tennessee game more than we're even considering, because maybe the wide receivers get shut down, but Chig underneath against the linebackers has a better game. Chris Fraser, thanks for everything. RC, good luck again. All hope we start off strong across all of our leagues. Yeah, I love starting off strong, but and I'll give the speech on Sunday, but I'm fully prepared to lose week one. I'm not gonna go into a grand depression if I lose in week one. 0-1 start, 0-2 start. If the team is still looking good. You never know if I see so many people lose week one where they had the second highest scoring week in the league, but they just happened to be playing the team that had the first scoring, the best scoring week, and they lost. Then they come back in week two and it's their dud week, and they lose and they're 0-2, and they just want to throw their team in the trash when, they're fourth in the league in scoring. They just happen to start out 0-2 and everybody freaks out. So I'll be giving my speeches to all of that like I always do, but it's certainly better when we start out stronger, although I really don't mind losing week one, because then I'm in a better waiver position. We're gonna lose 3 to 6 games in a season. If I could pick, if I know I'm losing 3 games this season, and God came down and said, you're gonna lose, this team's going to lose 5 games in this season, it's going to make the playoffs. It is what it is. So, but I'm going to let you pick where one of the losses happens. I would say week one, please let me lose week one. If I'm going to lose a week, it's got to be week one so I can be in the best waiver position. Jules McCoy, Av, Ladd, Nico, Jamison, Tet, and Addison in PPR. Kareem Hunt on waivers. Would you rather have him over Addison? No, Addison should be tradable if you're wanting to move on from Addison, which I would if I could see what I could get for him. But you can hold on to him. The thing with Addison is, so people some people are still into Addison that you could trade him to, but they're going to want him at a discount. and it may not be worth trading him unless you need to free up a spot for something. But after week 1, every week that Addison gets closer to playing, his value is going to pipe back up again, because people strongly like Addison. So his value is only going to increase every week. So if you can't find anything to trade him for now, you can hold on to him and see if he grows in value the next week or two. If there's something hot on waivers, then you'll have to make that decision. But Kareem Hunt, unless I had Pacheco and it was a barren RB league where everybody takes all the RBs and I had Pacheco and I wanted to get Hunt on the team, then it would make sense. You have Chase Brown, you have Chuba. I mean, Rico Dowdle's more important to you than Kareem Hunt is. Javonte, Travion, and May. I mean, you got 5 running backs. You don't even need a handcuff. You got 5. You got 4.5 RB1s on your team. Mason being the split starter. Chris Markey, ARC, PPR, tight end 1.5. Start Ferguson or Ertz to stack with Jaden. I'm into to stack with Jaden. I can go either way on that. I like Ferguson, but the Eagles were pretty good against the tight end last year. That's why our Ferguson numbers aren't fantastic. I got a lot of Jake Ferguson from redrafts. A lot of Njoku and Ferguson, but sometimes it's just Ferguson. But I could see doing. The Giants were good against tight ends too, but if I got 2 kind of options, I would do the stack with Jaden. Chris Markey. Hold on 1 second. I may have a message for you. Oops. Smashed the microphone. Yeah. Chris Markey. Just know, Chris Markey was the winner of the 3rd rookie card drawing for the betting subscribers. He picked that Devontae Adams, which is the one ungraded card of the group, but it may be the most valuable. I shipped that out today to the 3 winners. I don't know if the other 2 are listening after the fact next day or whatever, but the first 3 winners, I shipped the cards out today. Went to a professional shipping place where they got a really nice box and bubble wrapped it and took pictures of it and got it insured for a little bit in case it disappears, and then I got a bill for sending those 3 out, and I'm like, wait a minute, I got these cards for free to give out for free, and I got this $75 bill for shipping them out. I'm the loser in this. I need to claim one of these rookie cards to pay for the shipping to everybody. But no, I wanted to, on a serious note, I wasn't going to ship them in just like a bubble envelope or regular mail. They are in a big box wrapped in bubble wrap where if somebody steps on that thing or drives over it with their truck, it may survive just fine. But they're coming, all that to say, September 9th is the date that they're projected out. I'm like, they're like, do you need it to be there like second day? It's this much money. I was like, my eyes about popped out of my head when I heard how much the shipping was for a second day. I'm like, no. I said, whatever you can send it via the Pony Express, because these are valuable cards that are free to them. So if they have to wait a couple extra days so I can save $20 per shipping on each of them, I'll do that. But I invested my money in very good shipping quality, so they should get to you in pristine order in a pretty good size box, double walled, pretty good size box. So Food Banner, thanks RC, looking forward to another championship. Yeah, we need to go back to back for many of you. See you on Sunday. And just note, Sunday always 10:30 to roughly noon. We go through all the sit starts and all the Sunday morning news and all of that, focusing on sit start questions. I may, because week 1 is always so exciting, it may start it at 10, but I'm just going to say 10:30 for now. If I start earlier, I'll say it the day before. Food banger. I'll be sipping diet. Oh, you bastard! Sipping diet Dr. Pepper cream for you and my team. I cannot get that stupid soda in my town or in anywhere in the town. But so I've been enjoying the Blackberry Zero Diet Dr. Pepper. Has been a joy. In fact, while you say that, I'll take a nice swig of that. That's been pretty good, but oh man, I love the cream Dr. Pepper, the Diet Zero. When I went down to Florida, we had a family reunion in like June, and I went to the store, so all the family was in. We were staying in one big house, so I was getting supplies one day for the house, and I'm looking around. I'm like, let me go down the soda aisle and see what they got. And I saw the Diet Dr. Pepper cream. I bought every one of them they had, put them in my room to bring them back from vacation. So I had those for like most of the summer. I just ran out of them like 2 weeks ago. So I need my fix. Torque Penderline had an owner offer me Cooper Kupp for my Addison in Dynasty. If I will say this, you might be able to get better, but if you've got a great team and you're needing some more wide receiver firepower, Cooper Kupp may be a bit of a shock of being better than Jackson Smith and Jigba this year for fantasy production. We don't know if Kupp's going to be who Darnold loves to throw to. And I say that not from the, hey, anything can happen. Like, he's got Cooper Kupp that they just plowed $40 million or so into. They got Cooper Kupp and then flighty, flaky, to me, Jackson Smith and Jigba. So, I don't know that Kupp's going to be that terrible of an option. Granted, he's got limited life left, but Kupp's not crazy, and Addison, I think, is going to get chewed into by Thielen. So I think you can do better, but there may be another older player you want to try to flip Addison and maybe somebody else for, like, especially like after week 1 or week 2, because Addison's value is only going to increase. But like if a Mike Evans has a bad week, a Tyreek Hill has a bad week or 2 right off the bat, we're going right after those aged guys and dangling out the hot youngsters that people like an Addison. So you don't have to trade Addison now, because he's only going to rise in value each week he gets closer to his comeback. But I'm in the trade Addison mode, because I think he'll be a number 3 to Thielen. Daniel Robinson somehow ended up with far too many players on the Browns, Jags, Saints, and Jets in my Superflex. And Njoku is great. Flacco for the price ain't bad, especially in Superflex. Got to have somebody. Got to have a quarterback, a number 3 quarterback. I bet compared to some other teams' number 3 quarterback, Flacco's looking pretty good. Breece Hall, oh boy. Braylon Allen, Garrett Wilson, hey, I can't say that I didn't warn you. Alvin Kamara will be fine. Brian Thomas will be fine. I'm concerned, but should I be? No, I wouldn't freak out. For what you paid for Njoku and Flacco, they're good values. Kamara's solid. You could always trade him, especially after the first week if you're not a believer. Brian Thomas should be fine. Garrett Wilson's the one I would trade before this season even starts. When people see how bad Justin Fields is throwing to anybody, especially a Garrett Wilson type of improvising routes where Fields is not a meticulous quarterback. That thing looks like a mess. But people love Garrett Wilson, so I would be trading them. I have Hall and Allen from the past in Dynasty Leagues, and I've just resigned myself to the fact that I'm just going to see it through, see what happens. I'm open to doing deals on them, but everybody's kind of caught on to this Jets situation is going to be a mystery. I think Hall's going to be pretty decent, and Allen's going to be nothing but a handcuff. So if Hall gets a big run week 1, you're either going to be excited or you've got something to trade. But Garrett Wilson is the one that scares me to death. Out of everybody on that list, for the price that you paid, Garrett Wilson scares me to death. Mike Rogers, 14-team IDP Dynasty. Position-specific scoring for IDP. DTs get a lot of points. Are you still high on Kancey? Yes. Also have Dexter Lawrence. He's good. CJ West and Javon Hargrave are interesting. I'd rather have Kancey over either West or Hargrave. Dexter Lawrence is pretty nice for a defensive tackle, though. But Kancey's going to be right up there. West is a feud. If you had Lawrence and Kancey, and you had to cut one of West and Hargrave, I would probably cut in Dynasty. I might consider cutting Hargrave because CJ West is looking really good. Hargrave is more productive and is a name and might have some trade value. I don't know, but if Kancey's on waivers, I'm assuming you're asking this because Kancey's on waivers. If Kancey's on waivers, then I don't know that Hargrave has a ton of value. But I would like to see that CJ West through if I could. Torque Penderloin congratulating Chris and any of you guys that win the cards. I hope when you do get them and we're on these chats on Tuesday nights or Sunday morning, let everybody know you got the cards. Just makes me feel better that everybody knows that the cards were delivered as they were supposed to be. At great shipping expense to myself and my family. Food Banger, Blackberry is legit. It definitely is. I'm surprised how much I like Diet Zero Blackberry. I tried the strawberry, didn't like it. Tried the cherry, didn't like it. Blackberry, I was really worried about. Ended up to be really good. And what I'll do, because I'm crazy, because I'm a party animal, I will sometimes drink. I'll have the blackberry, put it in one of these big insulated tankers that takes up about 3/4 of it with a can of it. When I drink it down a little bit and I want to spruce it up, I'll take some Diet Orange Zero soda, Fanta or whatever, put that in, do like a weird Arnold Palmer. I'll have to come up with a name for half blackberry and half orange soda. That's a kind of a tropical delight right there, a blackberry orange mix. So that's my little tip to you diet soda drinkers out there. So that is it for the questions. That is it for the show. Appreciate all the fantastic questions to get us started for this week. I'm going to, as soon as I shut off from here, I'm going to put out the week 1 projections. I was hoping to get them before the show, but I needed to go through some more injury reports, and they just weren't ready. So I'll have them out hopefully by 11 Eastern to look at. There's no major changes. There's nothing special or major that's happening. Just tweaking for injury reports and different situations. So there'll be another projections update. So one tonight, then one about 7 o'clock-ish or so when they announce the inactives for Thursday Night Football. Then another one again on Friday, another one on Saturday, and then of course we'll do the final one Sunday at noon after the show's over. So that is it for this show. Appreciate the live attendance. Appreciate everybody who is watching and listening after the fact, commuting on their way to work, or stealing time from the workplace, where you're secretly watching and listening to this show while you're working, or while you're not working, or while you're supposed to be working. However you're consuming it, appreciate it. And that is it for me. I am out of here.